Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping right into a concept that is quite literally a game changer for how we write, speak, and persuade. We're talking about top-down communication and Barbara Minto's famous pyramid principle. And, because I completely respect your time, instead of giving you some long, meandering introduction, I'm just going to practice exactly what we preach here and give you the ultimate conclusion right out of the gate. Here it is. To communicate effectively, you've got to give your audience the main answer first, and then group your supporting arguments into a pyramid. By hitting people with the bottom line right at the very beginning, you give them instant clarity. You aren't forcing them to guess where you're going or trying to figure out what you want from them. You're delivering the solution, the recommendation, or the insight immediately. And we can absolutely validate this opening conclusion with some insight straight from top-tier consulting. As it's pointed out in the book, McKinsey Mind, successful consultants explicitly say, "I always strive for a statement of conclusions up front." This gets everybody on the same page and gives context to all of the supporting data. Leading with the answer just saves everyone's time. It builds the structural framework in your audience's mind so that when you finally do share your data, they already know exactly why it matters. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. 1. Start with the answer. 2. How the mind sorts information. 3. The rules of the pyramid. 4. Bottom-up thinking, top-down presentation. And 5. Passing the elevator test. Think of this agenda as our pyramid's key line. It's the framework grouping all the fascinating stuff we're about to explore. Section 1. How the mind sorts information. To really get why top-down communication works so well, we have to take a quick peek at human cognitive psychology. So, imagine this. Someone rattles off a random list of 9 grocery items for you to remember on your way to the store. They say grapes, milk, potatoes, eggs, carrots, oranges, butter, apples, and sour cream. Honestly, can you easily hold all 9 of those unstructured, totally disconnected items in your head without jotting them down? If you're anything like the rest of us, you'll probably remember the first couple and maybe the last few, but that middle section, total blur. So why does that happen? Well, it all comes down to a concept coined by psychologist George A. Miller, known as the magical number 7. Basically, there's a hard psychological limit to our short-term memory. The human mind generally just can't hold more than about 7 items, give or take a couple, in short-term memory at any one time. The crucial takeaway here is that when you bombard your audience with more than 7 unstructured facts, whether that's in a meeting or a long email, their cognitive load just maxes out. They literally start forgetting what you're saying while you're still saying it. But look at what happens when we change the structure. If we group those exact same 9 items into logical categories, like dairy, fruit, and vegetables, they suddenly become completely memorable. We've essentially built 3 mini pyramids. Now you only have to remember 3 main categories, and your brain automatically slots the specific items underneath them. It turns out the mind absolutely craves order. It automatically seeks to group things together that share similar characteristics. Section 2. The rules of the pyramid. Now we're going to take that exact same grocery list's logic and apply it directly to our professional communication. This brilliantly illustrates the literal architecture of the pyramid. Right at the very top, you have one single overarching thought. That's your main conclusion or your answer. Directly beneath that is your key line, which is made up of the major groupings that support your top thought. And then beneath those, you have your specific data points. By giving people that summarizing idea first, before getting into all the individual details, you dramatically reduce the mental strain on whoever's reading or listening to your work. Now, to make sure your pyramid is structurally sound, Barbara Minto laid out 3 strict rules. First, ideas at any level must summarize the ideas grouped below them. Second, ideas in each grouping have to be the exact same kind of idea, just like apples and oranges are both fruits. And third, ideas in each grouping must be logically ordered. You can't just throw stuff together randomly. They need to flow logically, whether that's chronologically, structurally, or by order of importance. Section 3. Bottom-up thinking, top-down presentation. Okay, so we really need to acknowledge a very real, natural tension that happens whenever we create content. Think about it. When you're analyzing a problem or writing up a draft, you naturally think from the bottom up. You look at all the data, you group the facts together, and eventually you build up to this undeniable conclusion. It's a journey of discovery for you. But here's the massive trap. You should absolutely never force your audience to go on that exact same exhausting journey. You've got to invert it. You do the hard work of bottom-up thinking for sure, but you deliver a top-down presentation. You give them the ultimate destination right away before you explain the route you took to get there. This concept also dictates how you structure your arguments, and you essentially have two paths here. The first is an inductive pyramid, where your main point is supported by parallel grouped ideas, like do A, do B, and do C to cut costs. Super efficient, right? The alternative is a deductive argument, which is a step-by-step logical chain. Something like, the business faces a threat, your structure can't handle it, therefore we need a new structure. Deductive reasoning is definitely powerful, but it's very linear. It forces the audience to follow every single step before they finally get to the payoff. So why is inductive top-down communication generally preferred for executive summaries? Well, our McKinsey sources hit the nail on the head here. If you organize a presentation deductively, you're forcing your audience to sit through all the supporting data leading up to the conclusion. But what if your boss or your client already accepts your premise? You've literally just wasted 20 minutes proving a point they already agreed with. An inductive, top-down structure lets them nod their head at the top-level conclusion instantly, and then you can just skip the granular data entirely and move on. Section 4. Passing the elevator test. This right here is the ultimate practical application of top-down communication used by top consulting firms and executives all over the world. The definition of the elevator test is pretty simple. It means knowing your solution, your product, or your business so thoroughly that you can explain it clearly and precisely to a client in the course of a short elevator ride. It ruthlessly strips away all the fluff. It absolutely forces you to distill your entire massive pyramid down to its absolute singular peak. And the magic number for this? 30. 30 seconds. That is very often all the runway you get. One of the executives cited in our sources even notes that if you have a 20-minute meeting booked with a massive firm like Goldman Sachs, honestly, only the first 2 minutes actually count. Executive attention spans are lightning fast. If you don't hit them with the top of your pyramid immediately, poof, the opportunity's gone. Mastering this elevator test has some incredible benefits. First, it forces you to focus on just 2 or 3 key points, your key line. It produces short, sharp sound bites that are absolutely perfect for things like media coverage or pitching. It proves your underlying issue is compelling, and it puts everybody on the same page instantly. Plus, on the flip side, if you fail the elevator test, it's a huge red flag. It usually proves that your communication is either muddled or your underlying idea just isn't compelling enough yet. Basically, it means your pyramid is broken. So I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. Think about the absolute biggest project you're working on right now, or maybe the next really important email you have to send. If you stepped into an elevator with the ultimate decision maker today, and you only had 30 seconds before those doors opened, what is the single defining point at the very top of your pyramid? Figure that out first, start right there, and just watch how powerfully your communication transforms. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep learning.